Here.
Amy Farah,
Here.
Colleen Kirk, Maria Panzarella,
Here.
Patricia Smith, here, Samantha Spalding, here, Lynn Terrell, here, John Moore.
Here.
Also present, Nancy Ward, Superintendent of Schools, Joanne Augustine, Business Administrator, Maureen Gallagher, not present. Mark Iannucci, Principal of Mary Gold School, Robert Mungo, Assistant Principal, Mary Gold School, Jenna Fiola, Child Study Team Coordinator, Butch Bruner, Maintenance Supervisor, and Philip Stern, Esquire, Board Solicitor. Need a motion to approve minutes, regular and executive from December 21st.
I'll second.
Motion made by Patty, seconded by Maria. Are there any questions? Roll call.
Angel Vivi, Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Colleen Kirk,
Yes.
Maria Panzarella,
Yes.
Patricia Smith,
Yes.
Samantha Spalding,
Yes.
Lynn Terrell,
Yes.
and John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Under correspondence, I do have one thing. This was sent to me by the New Jersey School Boards Association, and I am not sure if everyone received it, because it came to me as board president, and it is a worthwhile workshop. It's called Analyzing and Constructing Salary Guides, which I know is always a concern here during negotiation times. However, I am not allowed to negotiate, being an NJEA member, so this wouldn't be worthwhile to me, since I won't be negotiating, but I think that it's February 11th in Monroe Township, and I think that it would be fantastic for a couple of our board members to attend. So I have this if anybody's interested.
I have something else too. Everyone maybe received from our local Camden County School Boards Association, the 8th grade dialogue and dessert reception. And it would be nice to have representation from the board. It's actually very early this year. Ms. Iannucci and I were talking about it. It's been April, been May, and all of a sudden it's now March. March 5th at 6:30 at the Vocational Technical School. Any board members are interested in coming. We select an 8th grade student. There's one selected from every school in the county, and they're asked questions about how their school experience has been, what their preparation for high school is. And so if anybody's interested, just see me and we'll register you to go. Thanks.
It is now time for open public comment. At this time, public comments are on agenda items only. Hi.
John Schmidt, Thompson Avenue, Gloucester City, Mears. Two questions regarding the executive session. Are you planning on going into exec tonight?
We are planning on doing
Next question. I'm sorry about this.
My understanding, Mr. Schmidt, is that it's going to be to discuss negotiations.
Well, I'm sure you'll announce at the time you're going in and how long.
Yeah, but I figured, since you're asking this, I think that's right.
as well as legal matters.
Oh, there's a legal matter.
Under C10, which states approve the resolution to eliminate the vote on the annual budget and remove the election from school board members to the general election.
Yes.
This I believe is the first time it's appearing on the agenda. It's never been discussed at a meeting and announced in advance to the public that next month we're going to take up this resolution. Although I think more people need to come out and vote in school board elections because the school boards are where tax money really truly goes for good reasons and for bad reasons. I think there's a lot of cost of administrators and some contracts are very questionable throughout the state. My concern with this, people need to come out and vote. Yeah, sure, more come out in November than April. But if you look at it, not too much more unless it's a presidential election year or governor's election. This election year, all-year election, not many people came out. And that's the same even if you had a senator on the top of the ticket. People just don't come out and vote anymore. What's nice about school board elections, I think, is it's true to the founding of our country and being a democracy and what our founding fathers fought for independence and for a voice, in taxation itself, is to be the public is allowed to vote the budget up or down. And say, you know what? Sometimes I always vote against school board budgets, not because I want to take away from the kids, but because I have an issue with $160,000 a year superintendent salary. And these other high salaries, which, you know what? I'm sure in this economy, 140 could do. And you could save, you know, substantial money if you add it all up. And I'm just curious, you know, you're planning on voting for this tonight. And, you know, the first time I heard it was on your agenda was from Dan's blog, you know, 2 days ago. I think it's a very important issue where you might say, you know what, we're announcing this to people, you know, in our town. It's not just the parents who have a say, even though it is for the kids. It's only half for the kids. Everyone who lives in the town pays for the schools. And you're their representatives. You are there also to represent the taxpayers. And we're gonna vote on this tonight, and I don't know if your minds are made up or not on the issue. I think it's something that you wanna make sure you get community input on, and not just here's our agenda, you know, 2 days ahead of time, 48 hours, which does comply with the law, and vote on it, because I think it is such a big issue. I think it's so great that this, you know, on the school board elections, people are allowed to vote in the budget. And I think it should be the same for the municipal budget. You vote it up or you vote it down. People say, you know what, you need to contain costs. You know, we don't necessarily want to cut programs, but we have a problem with some of the contracts you're giving away, you know, or something like that. And, you know, people, I think even municipal budget should have the right to do that. And that's what's nice about the school board budget. It allows people who come out and vote and exercise their rights to fully participate in the process. So, you know, if your minds are made up, go ahead. If not, you know, at least maybe try to announce that, you know, next month we're going to vote on this. If you want to come out to our meeting and have a discussion, the whole town, you know, for anyone, I don't know who's going to come out, but I think it's such a great privilege to be able to vote in the budget, such a great right. It's a great thing about being an American that you can actually do that. I think it should happen more often. That's just my thoughts, and just wanted to bring it up.
Are we allowed to
before
say
you vote on
anything?
it.
This is the public portion of the meeting. And comments are, as Mr. Schmidt has just.
No, I understand what he's saying, but, I mean, like, can I say something to him?
Well, the way the public comment works is that all comments are
Okay.
directed towards the president and the board. The one thing we don't ever want to do is.
I'm not gonna argue with
is-
the guy,
no, just
or
let me-
argue with any of you.
Let me answer your
I
question.
think he's wrong in a lot of what he's saying.
We don't ever want to make anybody, irrespective of whatever
Well,
their
I'm not
opinion
gonna
is.
disrespect anybody.
Well, can I just finish?
Yes,
my-
sir.
Can I say thank you? Uncomfortable about speaking, and that's why it's much better, whatever comments somebody has, just direct it to the
Yeah, okay.
president of the board.
So,
Thank you.
that's all my thing. I think it's a big thing to vote on, and I think, you know, hopefully towns, school boards, you know, consider it before voting on it and allow the public to take. We're actually thinking about moving our election. And if we do that, we can't change it back in 4 years, and if we do that, you won't be able, if we move to November, have a right to vote on that budget.
This has been, you know, discussed a lot in the media, and especially through email and some things that are sent out, like in the school board notes to us. So it's not something that we just learned about 2 weeks ago, and Dr. Ward is going to do a mini presentation when she gives her report about this, and we did get, this is today.
This is
Yes.
today.
School board notes came out today.
Yeah.
Dr. Ward, if you want to.
Yes.
I'm in the school.
I don't know what the board will do, because it will be board prerogative when they elect to do that, when it comes up for vote. But if they do vote yes, they would be joining 38 other school boards that already, as of yesterday, had voted in favor of moving the November election. I do know that locally, Belmar and Gloucester Township has accomplished this vote this week. So I believe, certainly I understand what you're saying, and understand that the interest of the public, and there will be differing opinions on this. However, this Board of Education, as all boards of education, have been watching this legislation for the past at least year, if not 2 years.
It's something that I've been watching, you know, as well, but like, you know, I saw, you know, a comment on there that someone had said, you know, what does this mean with regard to the budget? I know, I talked to some people in Gloucester Township today, and I said, you know, they changed their election. They didn't know about it. You know, they knew this law was being discussed, but they didn't know it was gonna be coming up for discussion. It was really never.
Right.
Again,
Unfortunately, that happens a lot,
it's
with a
such-
lot of things.
It's such a big thing, so, you know, I guess what I'm saying is if you're going to maybe have a great presentation on it. Maybe say, we're gonna set a date, we're gonna, put it in the local paper, notify, the local media, and see if anyone comes out, it is such a big thing, that's, all I'm saying, I just think,
Thank you for your suggestion. Thank you.
that's what I was saying.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson?
I just wanted to comment on the change of the election. I think people also, you don't hear them saying that it will be a 2% cap on the budget. You won't be able to go over the 2%. I think that a lot of people, say, when they vote the budget down and they're thinking that you can cut this and that. You actually mentioned about contracts. Well, they could come out when you're voting on your teacher contracts, because once they're set in that budget. So people vote a budget down and think that's gonna help with those contracts and all which are already set. I mean, I know locally, we try and keep every program we can, and I think we're trying to be responsible. There may be questions on things that we're not being responsible, but the same number of people show up even if they think you're not being responsible. Being involved with the PTA, we get a lot of questions. I bring them here and everybody says, oh no, here she comes with a question. But it's things that I hear people say, but they don't have the time to come to meetings, they don't want to come to the meetings, they don't feel their voice is heard. I mean, I think you do listen to their voices and all, but if they don't come out to the meetings to say that, but there are a lot of stipulations there as to what we can do with the budget as far as how we can raise it, how much we can raise it, where that money can go, different areas that it can go that you can't transfer to another area. I mean, it's a lot to learn, and being on the school board as long as I have, I mean, it's very complex for everybody, but I think this, I understand moving it, and then people say the political piece of moving it, it's gonna be political no matter when the budget is. If there's politicians or political people that wanna put their people in or try, and in some towns it's big, other towns it's not, but it can be political no matter when it is. It can be cost savings to the town now because it's one election and everybody's paying. I mean, there's two sides to it. You can listen to both sides, and they both have good points, And I don't think anybody's trying to keep anything from the people in our town. I think that, this came up to us, it's been a discussion, it's been in the news. We could have people ask us those questions, what are your thoughts, but you could go up to a person on the street and say, the week before school elections next week, and they go, oh, I didn't know that. So even with changing this, people are just so busy in what they're doing. A lot of things, and it's not on purpose, and it's not because they don't care, it's just because in the busy lives. So I don't know how much of a difference that's gonna make, moving it or what. So there's two sides to it, You have to do what you feel is best as a school board. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Nick Capados. I came here this evening to support the decision to move the school board election. I understand that the 2% cap that you guys are under, if you keep under the 2% cap, you don't have to come in front of council, which is a wonderful thing. We don't have to deal with that, we deal with trying to make cuts. I think it hasn't been spoken, but obviously it is a school board has the ability to make this change, but so do the people, and so does the municipal government. So I just think an extra election is not needed. The savings that you'll have, I think it's better for everything, and hopefully it helps rein in costs, which I think was the idea of it. So I hope you move forward with approving this tonight. Thank you.
$5,000.
School member Amy Ferry asked how much having one election would save.
That's what I heard, 5,000 myself.
Anybody else have anything on any agenda items? Okay. Superintendent's report.
Thanks, Mrs. Walden. District enrollment continues to grow. We had 881 students enrolled in our district. 13 of them are out of district in special education placements. 868 are in the district. Some of the activities that I've been involved in through the course of this past month, Joanne Augustine, Mark Iannucci, Valerie Ryan, and I met with the county superintendent, business administrator, ed specialist, some of the folks at the county office, to do our annual fiscal efficiency review. And during the fiscal portion of the review, Dr. Hannah, the county business administrator, was complimentary of the efforts the district has made to maintain fiscal efficiency in all areas such as maintaining only special education aides, custodial staff in accordance with the guidelines, and administrative costs. She did highlight the fact that the district continues to support its food service operation with a local budget, and she informed us that she'll be recommending that we consider ways to reduce the food service costs so the food service program will become self-sufficient. We again reiterated that because we have to satellite, we do not have a kitchen. We've done well, we've saved at least $6,000 over the past few years, but it is very difficult to reduce the cost. So I thought it was important that the board knows we will be getting an official report, but that is what we are being told verbally, and we have to continue to be in discussion and hope that they understand. During the educational program review, Mr. Iannucci and Mrs. Ryan represented the district well by presenting data about our 8th grade program and our student assessment results. I've given you a copy of the PowerPoint that was prepared by Mr. Iannucci and the administrators, Mr. Mungo being one. Our goal was to demonstrate the level of preparation our students have as they enter high school, and we see that they're very well prepared for high school based on the assessment data. The curriculum coordinators and superintendents viewed presentations regarding the companies that are approved to train and license the software associated with the new teacher evaluation program that I've spoken to you about before. We're currently meeting with teacher representatives, and we will be having 2 meetings where they are presented with the vendors who provide this training and licensing program. There were no incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying reported in the month of December. Now I would like to talk to you about what you will be voting on in the resolution regarding the November election. On January 17th, Governor Christie signed legislation that gives communities the option of moving the annual election of school board members to November. In school districts that change the election date, the annual base budget, that is the proposed budget, at or below the school district's cap levy will no longer be placed before the voters. If a district moves its election to November, voters would not be required to vote on the district's base budget or budget with proposed tax levy that exceeds 2%. Any request for spending above the district's tax levy cap would be presented to voters in November. A school district that moves its annual election to November would continue to require to submit its budget to the Commissioner of Education for approval. Actually, it starts with the County Office of Education and then goes to the Commissioner of Education. If a district determines when it is preparing its budget to seek voter approval for additional funds over its tax levy limitation, the district would submit a temporary budget. So that would be, if for some reason the district wanted to go over, they would have to do a temporary budget. The submission process came about. If the voters approve the proposal for additional spending, the Board of Education would submit the final budget. If the voters disapprove, you go through that same whole process that we used to before. The law will not alter the process for the approval of budgets for districts that conduct their annual election in April. The law will also not alter budget approval in districts in which boards of education submit the district budget to a board of school estimate, which is not us. If the district moves its election to November, the district would not be permitted to change its election back to April until at least 4 annual school elections have been held in November. So if and when you pass this resolution this evening, what you are saying is, after 4, you will not attempt to raise the tax levy above 2% in any way unless you're planning to have a separate election for it in November. So you're pretty much locking yourself in to ensure that you will not be asking for more than 2% over the tax levy. Under the legislation, the community is able to move the election through any one of 3 methods, and one of them is what's presented to you tonight, the resolution by the Board of Education. In school districts that change the election to November, the reorganization meeting of the board will take place in the first week of January. Board members in such districts whose terms would have expired following the April election will have their terms extended to the January organization date. So any of our board members who would have been up for re-election in April may and will stay through the course of this calendar year until reorganization, whether or not they are voted in November. So that everyone is seated on the board now, unless they choose not to be on the board, will remain here until the first week of January. So, now, my statement about this is if the Runnymede Board of Education elects to pass the resolution that moves the election to November and plans to develop its budget within the 2% cap on the tax levy, a vote will not occur. However, a public meeting regarding the proposed budget would still take place. We would still have a public hearing, and the board would, the public will have an opportunity to see what's in this budget, what actually we are going to be recommending. It could be any variety of increases from 0 up to 2%. And they will see what the proposed increase would be, what has been submitted to the County Office of Education, and what's in it. For instance, the things that last year were on the survey, full-day kindergarten, having counselors, having school nurses, having the class size remain the same, not reducing any classrooms, were all the kinds of things that people were very interested in. So, those are the kinds of things that I think that the public is going to want to know, what's in this budget. So, it would be my intention to do another presentation in March at the time that we are submitting the budget. Certainly, the board will continue to meet. The finance committee would meet in advance to see what's included in the budget, to bounce off different ideas as to what should and shouldn't be included. What will it take to get us into the 2% range? Are there anything that we have to, items that we have to cut? What kind of realignments will have to be made? So much of this process will be the same. The only thing that would be different is the public would not be voting. Any other questions?
I have one question. So if something out of our control happened and it needed to go to 2.25%, it would then go to vote?
If it needed to, yes.
It would?
Mhm.
Okay.
In November.
In November.
In November?
It would have, it would be voted on.
Okay.
Yeah. If we thought in March that there might be some catastrophic incident or something, as you point out, we would be submitting a temporary budget.
Okay.
Question. Jenny Brown. Are there any exceptions to the 2% cap? Or it's pretty much, sometimes things go awry and they make exceptions to the 2% cap? And I was just wondering if there are exceptions made that would cause the budget to go above 2%.
That is,
In the past, it was health benefit cost. So if the health benefit costs created, the increase in the rate was high enough to cause that, you could submit for a waiver, but there was never a guarantee that the Board of, the Department of Ed would even approve that. And going with this resolution where we're trying to keep it below the 2%, I can't foresee it, but I can't say 100%.
It's the only thing about the doing away with the voting of the taxpayer is that, you're saying that 2% is your cap, but occasionally there's years when the budget has no increase. So my only concern is that as a school board, you would look at the cap at 2% and say, oh, we have 2% to play with, so we can raise our rate up 2% every year, because you never know, the next year we might need that extra 2%. My concern is only some years if you see diminishing enrollment. What if you have, 20 or 30 less children, then you may not even need a 2%, or you may actually be able to decrease the amount of the school budget. I'm just watching my taxes slowly go up and up and up, and I just wanted to, it does concern me that taking away the voters' chance to actually vote could, I know when the budget does not pass, then you kind of have to go back and cut a little bit more, and we always seem to manage to educate our children wonderfully, even when we have to cut. So I'm still looking at, 2% over, if you're raising it 2% every year for 10 years, you've just raised my taxes for the school 20%. So that's my only concern in that 2% yearly. And will there be years when it's 0 or when it is a negative?
I think this board is absolutely, because they're all taxpayers themselves, are certainly dedicated to trying to keep the tax levy as low as they can and still maintain a responsible school program, because that is the goal of this Board of Education. And while you will not be able to vote directly on the budget, you are voting for representatives who are all residents of this community, and these representatives are there to represent your interests. You know, I think there are a lot of things that can be said about being able to manage, to operate a school district. I think that sometimes it's sort of a shame that a school district has to think in terms of being able to get by and managing as opposed to being able to flourish, because you want to flourish the best you can in the most economical way, fiscally responsible way, because you want your property taxes, your property values to remain stable. You want to make sure that the people who are buying the homes where people might be leaving, and they might be leaving because they're aging and they're moving out of the town, out of the borough of Runnymede, and you want to make sure that they can resell their homes at a good value, because the people who are going to move in want to move into a district that has an excellent school system. So retaining that excellent school system is certainly an interest of the public as well.
I agree with you on having a good school, and I think our schools are excellent, and that's a tribute to the way the schools run. But, I'm still that taxpayer that is
Absolutely.
struggling with my property values that have declined so much in the last 5 years, and, having 3 kids in the school, so I want it to remain as best it can be, but yet every year when that tax bill comes and I've gotta come up with another $500, it is very difficult. So, that's my concern with the 2% cap over time.
You do know that your taxes don't.
Yeah, it's not the school
it's
that's
not
always
always
doing
the
it,
school.
yes.
You're an informed.
I
can
know.
tell. I know, and I certainly understand that, so we appreciate your comments.
And how much was the percentage?
It was $66 for.
No, what was the percentage of the 2%?
It was one.
So, but it was under the two.
It was under, yeah, I mean, there could come a time that there's no increase if possible. And we're only permitted to retain a certain amount of money in our fund balance.
Right.
So it's not like we can raise our coffers to the millions of dollars, we can't. We're not
I know,
permitted to.
sometimes I try to just like to be the devil's advocate.
No, it's fine, absolutely fine, and when you ask the question, it gives us an opportunity to have a dialogue about it, as opposed to, it informs everybody when you ask a question, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question.
Nancy, can you also explain to her how we also have to have our budget approved by the county level before we can even think about? It has to go to the counties.
Oh, yeah, the executive county superintendent and business administrator have to approve it, and if they think that we're exceeding, for instance, administrative costs, or,
They're looking at the various efficiency standards.
exactly, we have a whole list of efficiency standards that we have to fit into. For instance, the things that I was mentioning, we are not permitted to have aides in our school unless they are special education aides. We're not permitted to have too many custodians, because you have to have a custodian that matches the square footage of your building.
Right.
So we have a lot of regulations and a lot of constraints that we are under that, other agencies and bodies aren't. But I think we get your point.
Okay.
And we appreciate your comments. Diane?
Okay. Business administrator's report, you have anything?
I submitted a report, and it, bullet items highlight some of the things I did since our last meeting. I did successfully close the unemployment reserve account at Beneficial and moved it to PNC where all our other accounts are. It just makes it for a much more efficient way to transfer money between accounts. Submitted the CUSAC statement of insurances electronically through New Jersey Home Loan as required. Ongoing processes is just a review of the business office and all the functions, the various staff responsibilities, my budget to actual review. I met with, as Dr. Ward said, we met with the county superintendent and business administrator on January 11th for the efficiency standards review. We completed the third round of the matching process for direct certification that's required by National School Lunch Program. Updated the general ledger for the audit adjustments for our fiscal year June 30, 2011. We created the budget projection file to assist in the 2012 budget preparation. preparing the final expenditure reports for the NCLB fiscal year ended August 31st of 2011. And I toured the buildings with Mr. Speck and Mr. Bruner prior to Mr. Speck's departure over the Christmas break. Also, one of the things we did, and Mr. Bruner may discuss some of the other items that he's been working on, resolved the boiler issue with the assistance of George during the interim period between when Mr. Speck left and when Mr. Bruner came on board. And then just doing my routine activities, the minutes, the agendas, the correspondence, the monthly accounting processes, banking activities, the lunch program, and any reimbursements.
Thank you, Joanne. I wasn't gonna put Mr. Bruner on, I was just gonna have the board, Mr. Bruner, Ms. Gallagher, Mr. Iannucci, reports, the nurses report, the special education report, all of the reports are attached. Does anyone have any questions on any of those reports? If not, is there anything to report for PTA?
Just so we're getting ready for our basket auction, April 27th. We're looking forward to, hope that some of you can make it there. It's a fun night. We're doing your visit and approval for a dance, the Princess Party. We just sent flyers out for kindergarten through third graders to invite their favorite prince, adult male member, to a Friday night, kind of like a little, we're having a DJ, and we're gonna have them make a craft. It's a replacement for our family night for the girls to do something with their dads, uncles, grandfathers, someone special. And, and they'll come here, and then we're gonna do something in May for the boys, K through 3. We'll have it here at Volts. So we were back and forth with what's it called, what's it doing, so we don't want it to be a big dance. It's not a big dance, it's a night. So it's called a Princess Party, and they're looking forward to it. The moms, something for them to do with their dads, because a lot of times mom's doing it. And we've heard that a lot of schools do that, so it's just something new that we're doing. And we're looking to do a bulb, plant sale, something different.
No, it's not bulbs. Yes, it's, called growers.
Grow.
It's plants in a bucket, and you germinate them and they grow, like a garden.
Like a garden in a bucket. We were gonna do plants, but because of how the plants fall with the sale, it just wouldn't fit in with our fundraising. We got a lot of things going. So, other than that, we got our bylaws back, and we're moving along. We're looking to have our Founder's Day. That's the 29th of February. You've all got your invitation, I think, so. Another good year. We're having a great year, I think.
How are the dates for the princess party and the boys' night?
The boys, we haven't picked a date because they're unsure of what they're going to do.
She said sometime in May.
May. That's gonna be they're not sure if it's gonna be a Friday night type thing, whether it's gonna be more of a fun sports night, volleyball, we're not sure. So that has to come up for discussion, and the girls is February 10th.
Committee reports, Camden County Educational Services report, anything to report? New Jersey School Board Association report?
The only thing that I was going to report in introduction, where we covered, was the moving of the elections to November. And if anybody is interested, I have that in a hard copy, if anybody would like to read it.
Thank you. Curriculum Committee did not meet. Policy and Public Relations?
Yes, that's me. Just read a little quick here. I was invited by Dr. Ward to attend an informational meeting with our newest member of Runaways Borough Council, Pat Pasquio, which is this evening. The meeting took place last Friday, January 20th at 1 o'clock, and also in attendance was Joanne Augustine, our business administrator for the board. It was a very positive exchange of information and ideas for the four of us. We discussed such things as the passage of this newest resolution for moving the elections, the budget process and how it works, and the promise that informational presentations will still be given for the budget, our shared services and some ideas about possibilities with town council, recycling in our schools, the one-way traffic flow at Bolts, the generators at all 3 schools, school lunch program, both current and future prospects, student enrollment and how our inclusion programs have kept more special needs students in the district, possible future construction of the townhouses or townhouses/condos in Runnymede and how it would impact our enrollment, changes in the school day at Bolts, the advantages, and how Mr. Iannucci went through that process. See the grounds and maintenance supervisor position, website development from our district and how we go about updating it, and the need to continue communications between the council and the board. The meeting ended with exchange of contact information between Dr. Wood and Mrs. Patsio, and Dr. Wood also invited her to join the superintendent's advisory committee, just so she could be a continuing process of bridging that gap, that communication gap.
Thank you. Negotiations?
The negotiations committee met and, we finalized the, administrator's contract and we sent that to the, board members for their review for approval.
Thank you. Finance? Personnel? Did not meet. Property?
We met tonight also, and we discussed, the 5-year long-range plan that, the state needs to make, right?
Final approval.
The final approval and changes to update our plans.
I also want to mention that a few other board members, too, met with Mr. Garrison
Oh, yes.
at that time
Good.
to, go over other possibilities and just actually for a chance for 2 of our new board members to meet our architect and talk about, you know, additions and things that they had questions about. So that was a good meeting, free of charge. Any questions?
Policy. Just for effect on policy committee. If I could just borrow everyone's ear for 1 minute, it's a request more or less, for the policy committee. And it's not involving the school board for a moment. I have to, address the RLI's concerns, with the policy that was implemented last year. We are budgeted for paying for the gym this year. We actually agreed last night at our general meeting to table the bills. I unfortunately am out there in the community, very much so, and am taking a lot of comments, all of which are negative, and complaints regarding the fact that we are being charged to utilize what our tax dollars technically pay for. So although last year our backs were against the wall, we were charged for something that we were being charged for something that we had not budgeted for. And the school board was kind enough to waive that, and develop a new policy. But again, my issue, and I want everyone aware that I'm not only coming to the school board with this, I'm going to the mayor and council as well. We are being charged double for what we already pay for. As taxpayers, each one of the not each one, the bulk of the 260 people that are registered as basketball players, the bulk of, and when I say bulk, I mean 95% of our players are taxpayers in the borough of Runnymede. I get budgetary issues, I get it all, but I wanna know what that $1,200 to $1,600, whose job is that gonna save this year? And I would throw this out as well. We give a stipend to the coaches that coach. I have had numerous coaches that coach for our organization that question how the school determines who coaches their programs, because our parents, who are actually probably more than capable than the people we have, some of which we have, would be, able and willing to do it free of charge. But somehow, I'm the only one, that can speak, because I'm the only one that hears it all. But again, we're charging the same people that, already are taxpayers. Same thing, it's the borough gym, it's the school gyms. It's becoming hard, to explain why we're passing along a charge that they're already incurring in another aspect, of their, being a resident here. And so I am requesting that the policy committee, review that policy, because I can't justify and explain properly, again, where that money is saving someone's job, or, you know, not cutting a program here, when we have stipends that coaches are getting that far exceed what you're gonna be paid by the RY, you know, and I would ask the policy committee, please, to revisit that policy and somehow try to understand this is not coming from me only. I mean, I am a taxpayer, you are, you know, charging my kids, your kids, your kids, your kids, to again, pay into what their parents, you know, are already paying as taxpayers. So please, if that could just be, I mean, I know it's a concern, I'm looking at people in the audience who have already, you know, who have a concern. And, excuse me, Mr. Council and Ms. Councilperson, I will again address this in a couple weeks with you. You know, again, please, you know, we're trying to help the kids, we're keeping 260 kids off the streets, and very affordably like that, and we could do it maybe that much more affordably if we didn't have these excessive bills from the Borough of Runnymede and the Runnymede Board of Education.
Mrs. Turley, you're the chair of the policy committee, is it okay with you if we can be?
Certainly, sure. We can certainly revisit that.
And again, we tabled the bills until, just to
Right,
see
now
if
I
we
know
could.
there was a request put out just so we could see exactly in black and white what your cost is.
I actually have a copy of the budget, I do not have it
Okay.
with me, but I would be more than happy to
Okay,
send
if
it
you
to
can
you.
just, yeah, get that to me before we
Absolutely.
meet as a policy committee, that would be great.
Do you have
We'll
these?
set a date tonight.
Can I move along?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry, thank you, I
Yeah.
appreciate
All right.
that.
Under new business and property and transportation, we need to approve the following. Number one, there's nothing under number two, just to use the facility. Motion made by Colleen, seconded by Patty. Are there any questions? Roll call.
Angel Lee, Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Colleen Kirk. Yes. Maria Panzarella.
Yes.
Patricia Smith.
Yes.
Samantha Spalding.
Yes.
Lynn Terrell.
Yes.
And John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Under personnel, we need a motion to approve items number 1 through 11 on the new agenda.
I make a motion to approve items 1 through 11.
I second that.
Motion made by Colleen, seconded by Maria. Are there any questions?
Mr. Ralston is new for Battle of the Books for 5th and 6th grade, isn't he?
Yes.
There was a concern.
That was just,
Grasso?
Okay,
Grasso was
that's great, I think I'll do great.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Angel Lee. Yes. Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Colleen Kirk.
Yes.
Maria Panzarella.
Yes.
Patricia Smith.
Yes.
Samantha Spalding.
Yes.
Lynn Terrell.
Yes.
And John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Under finance, I'm gonna split this up because the resolution needs to be read, so I'm gonna ask for a motion for items number 1 to 9 and 11 to 14 on the new agenda. 1 to 9 at this time and 11 to 14. Motion made by, made by Maria, seconded by Angel. Any questions?
I have a question. Number 5, for the Turkish translator. I had the question last month and it's back again. Is this an ongoing monthly bill that we're going to have?
no, only for IEP meetings and for the evaluations that need to be translated.
By law.
No, I understand, I was just wondering.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Number 13. What's the additional access to
They want to go to the school by the small parking lot.
On the front of the building? Why?
We told the other one is already 2, right?
There are 2 access points at Dayton Elementary School. staff who is leaving during the time that the preschool is leaving, park in the side lot as opposed to parking in the other staff, the larger staff parking lot, because as the preschool students are coming and going, and this is really at the 11 o'clock time, the reason the preschool students leave is because the teacher believes it's a more controlled dismissal. There's a ramp, there are students with disabilities, and that's where they leave. The parents park on the street, come to get the children. So we've asked that they park in the other lot. Well, when they park in the other lot, because they know they're coming and going during the course of the day, they will have to walk all the way around to get into the building, and they're carrying their items, they're carrying, heavy things, bags. Teachers always have a million things in their hands. So they asked if we could create an access point in the front so that they won't have to carry so many items all the way around the building, especially in inclement weather, where it's cold and icy, those kinds of things.
So there is one though in the small lot already, on the gym side,
One on the gym side.
and there's one in the front?
There's one in the front.
No, I think it's really.
So they want another one at the other door in the front? Is that what that is?
Yes.
The other part?
Where the other parking lot is.
It's really not that far.
So,
For teachers who are coming in and out during the course of the day.
okay.
The art teacher comes in and out because she has to change schools,
Everybody. Special area.
especially
There's
if
already
there's off
one
limits.
in the front.
Yes, but they don't
But
have
they can't
access.
park in the front.
They can't park in
They can only park in
that
the lot.
area in order to get into the building. So they would request to go into that, as opposed to on the other front door, so that that one is closer to the additional parking lot.
They can't park in the parking lot anymore, because that's where the class comes
No, I
out. So the
understand
two buildings in the front, now they have to park here, or park on the street. So now, there's only one here.
So it's either go
Where
to
we
this
go into the main
door.
office, they want one here,
So, okay.
second,
One closest to the playground.
closest to the
Yes.
playground.
Closest to that parking lot, that's
Right.
near the playground, right?
Which, to me, I think is kind of ridiculous, because if they work in any other school district where you have to walk a great distance, the kids carry their book bags that are heavy at times and everything else, to actually put another swipe right there for them to walk another 20 feet. I'm not sure how many feet it actually is, to be honest. I just think it's kind of silly to put that kind of money out for another swipe when there's already one in the front of the building. It's not like there isn't one in the front of the building that they don't have access to. And, go around to the other, I mean, I know they work at our school districts, but, they can park at the end of this lot and come to the front door here, it's the same distance. Teachers do it here every day. They carry their heavy bags.
I think it's,
Well, if you disagree, then you can just vote
Oh, I know.
Vote no for number,
13.
What is 14? 14?
Yeah.
All of our telecommunications that come to us, there is okay, maybe you should stop right.
There's it's like a rebate program, but it's very involved, and it involves communications, your telephones like Verizon, and if you submit, what's that? Right, internet, well, I think of Verizon, the big package and all. But if you submit the proper paperwork and they do this process, all these legal forms, they actually get back for us a rebate against our costs. So it's a big savings in comparison to the fee that they charge. When I looked at the agreement today, it's the same for the last 4 years. So I thought for what we get back in the rebates, it's well worth it. Yes, and this is one of the efficiency standards too, that your county wants you to participate in as well as the E-rate program.
So they manage it and basically write the grants or fill out the paperwork
They fill out
to
all
get
the
the money
paperwork in
back.
order to do the rebates.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's sort of an administrative fee.
Right, makes sense.
you can say yes or no.
I think everybody should look at number 12. Wow, that was incredible.
At this time,
I'm gonna
I-
collect box tops from all the basketball players, and that's how we're gonna pay for the gym.
Well, actually, Mrs. Brown is here, and I was told by Mrs. Davison that she is the box top coordinator, so we'd like to give her a round of applause.
Wow.
Thank you for your efforts, it's greatly really appreciate it.
You were very excited to win a contest.
Absolutely.
Yes, we were.
And that's quite a contest to win,
Yeah.
I might point out.
Yes. Good. So the motion was made by Maria and seconded by Angel, so we need roll call for items 1 to 9 and 11 to 14.
Angel Beebe,
1 through 9, yes. 11, 12, and 14, yes. 13, no.
Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
1 through 10, yes.
we're not to 10 yet,
Oh, sorry, 1 through 9, yes. Yes to everything except 13.
except 13.
Yeah.
Colleen Kirk,
Yes for 1 through 9, yes for 11, 12, not 13.
14th, okay.
Yes.
Maria Panzarella,
Yes. Yes.
Patricia Smith,
I would say yes from 1 through 9, 11, 12, and 14.
Samantha Spalding,
Yes.
Lynn Terrell,
Yes.
John Ward.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 that voted in favor of 1 through 9, 11 through 14, and 4 that were against all but, I'm sorry, that were against item 13 and approved the rest. It's a 9-0 for all except for 13, but because there's a majority there, the motion still carries on item 13.
In regards to number 10, we need to approve, a motion to approve the resolution to eliminate the vote on the annual budget and to remove the election of the school board members to the general election. I'm now going to read that resolution out loud, and it's in front of you this evening. Establishing the election of members of the Runnymede Board of Education as the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Whereas Public Law 2011, C 202, Senate Bill 3148 authorizes a local board of education to change the election date of school board members from the third Tuesday in April to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of the general election. And whereas such